Yo, what's going on YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. Guys, we're taking a look today at my projections for the New York Islanders roster and their protected list going into the Seattle Kraken expansion. We'll be taking a look at that in this video. So, this is kind of interesting. I'm going to see how this kind of goes, if this video does well or not. But I may go over all the teams and kind of make my own protected list heading into this Seattle expansion draft. And the New York Islanders are an interesting team. A team that, honestly, I was concerned may lose some guys that they don't necessarily want to. But this may be a blessing in disguise for the New York Islanders. As you look at their protected list, specifically on the blue line, it may be a little bit interesting. I actually had a hard time finding a third defenseman to protect for the Islanders, and I'll explain why right now. So, we're going to start off with the forwards. So, obviously, you're keeping Matt Barzal. That's no question. His contract goes till 2023. He's sticking around. Anders Lee, the captain of the team, you could pretty much assume he'll be protected as well. Brock Nelson, his contract won't be over till 2025, but we've seen what a huge integral part of this team he has been for the Islanders. He's going to stick around. Jean-Gabriel Pageau, he's going to stick around as well. Josh Bailey, no surprise here. He's been here for almost 2 decades, it feels like, at this point. Josh Bailey's going to stick around. Anthony Bovillia, he is up for another contract this summer as a restricted free agent, so he does have to go through arbitration and stuff with Lou Lamoriello. You know that's not going to be pretty. And this is the one that may surprise some people, most people. And that is, I'm going to protect Kiefer Bellows instead of Jordan Eberle. Now, some people may be wondering, well, why would you do that? Obviously, Jordan Eberle is a top 6 forward. He's a proven commodity. He's played well in the postseason. Why would you do that? Well, there's a couple of different things. So, the first thing being, we don't necessarily know what Kiefer Bellows is. He's played in very limited amounts of time in the NHL. He has had struggles under Barry Trotz and his system. So there is some point, to that argument that maybe he doesn't fit. But here's the other thing. His cap hit. And that's going to be attractive to the Seattle Kraken and could be attractive to the New York Islanders here in training camp in the fall. So the reason I say that is the Islanders, in their situation right now, they have to re-sign a couple of guys. We already mentioned one of them. In Anthony Bovillia, Adam Pollock, and Ilya Sorokin. Those are the 3 big guys that the Islanders are probably going to re-sign this summer, and I'm excluding guys that they may want to bring back that are unrestricted free agents, like a Casey Cizikas, potentially a Kyle Palmieri, who are going to be more expensive, and then even guys on league min, like Travis Zajac. Please don't come back, but loved you when you were here. Travis Zajac, Braden Coburn, Andy Green. Some mix of those guys may come back as well. So the reason you want to move Jordan Eberle, or at least leave him unprotected, is you're forcing Seattle to take one of the big boy contracts. Because you look at some of the guys that the Islanders are going to leave unprotected for forwards. You're looking at guys like Jordan Eberle, right? Casey Cizikas, he's a pending unrestricted free agent. You have Cal Clutterbuck, who's making $3.5 million this season. Again, does Seattle want to touch that? Probably not for a 4th-line player, at least if they're not getting draft picks in return. Obviously, the Andrew Ladd contract, we know how abysmal that is. So, Leo Komarov, his contract. So, there are guys that, but then there's also guys Seattle can just take. They could take Josh Ho-Sang. They could take Michael Dal Colle. They could take Otto Koivula, who aren't going to count against the cap. So, they could still maneuver their way around that. But let's be honest, the value there is not going to be what it could be from a guy like Jordan Eberle, except the caveat is you have to take his salary, and that would be helping the New York Islanders this summer. So that is something to look at from the forward side of things, and that's why I would almost bait the Seattle Kraken into maybe taking a guy like Jordan Eberle this summer, because they're probably not going to take Andrew Ladd unless you give them money, but they may willingly take a guy like Jordan Eberle. So what? He flips him to the Devils, the Flyers, the Rangers. I don't really care. He's off the books for the Islanders. And at this point, salary cap is the most valuable thing for the Islanders this summer. And now moving on to the blue line. So the first two blue liners, it was a no-brainer for the Islanders. You protect Ryan Pollock. He has one more year left on his deal. He'll be an RFA next summer. Actually, he will be a UFA. He will be walking straight into unrestricted free agency, which means he could talk to any team that he wants next summer. He does not have to be a New York Islander next summer. He will not be a restricted free agent. So that definitely does merit some value there. Adam Pollock, who is due for another contract. We already mentioned that. And I mentioned Sebastian Ajo as the third and only the third defense. Only three defensemen getting protected by the Islanders here. And the reason I say that instead of a guy like Nick Leddy is the same thing as Jordan Eberle. If I'm Seattle, I'm not taking one of those contracts if I'm getting something from the Islanders. And better yet, I could still flip. Let's say, all right, let's say Ron Francis goes to the Islanders. He says, all right, I'll take a guy like Jordan Eberle for a second-round pick. Give me your second-round pick, and I'll take Cal Clutter. I'll take Jordan Eberle, okay? Perfect. You take Jordan Eberle. Now, Seattle can flip Jordan Eberle for a second and third-round pick, potentially, if not even more. So now, Seattle could be getting a second from the Islanders and a second and a third from whatever team they get, whoever they trade with Jordan Eberle. So the Islanders have to be careful with that. That's why I think Nick Leddy, leave him unprotected. He's got one more year left on his contract. If Seattle really wants to take him, they really love him, force them to make that decision. Because if you're going to have a decision where you have Sebastian Ajo or Nick Leddy, if I'm Seattle and I'm building a franchise the way we think they're going to build it, I would rather take Sebastian Ajo. Don't give them the option and keep Sebastian Ajo in your system. And he may become a blue liner on the New York Islanders next season, especially if they lose guys like Andy Green, especially if they lose guys like Braden Coburn and they continue to redevelop this blue line. We could see a guy like Sebastian Ajo in the third pair for the New York Islanders next season. He's going to have some stiff competition, and I'll talk about that in another video this summer. The Islanders are going to have some pretty big prospects coming into the fold, specifically on the blue line next year, and we'll be getting to that. So that's it for that, and that means that the unprotected defensemen are Nick Leddy and Thomas Hickey, as well as guys like Andy Green and Braden Coburn, but I don't think the Islanders are too concerned if Seattle were to take those. That would be kind of a blessing for the New York Islanders. And then we get to the goaltending. As Ilya Sorokin has only played 1 year in the NHL, so he is exempt from the expansion draft, which means the Islanders only have to protect Semyon Varlamov. Unless they want to protect Ken Appleby or Corey Schneider, I'll stick with Semyon Varlamov, who just got me to the conference finals. So that's what the Islanders will likely do. So that means the big names that the Islanders are leaving unprotected, if you even want to consider them big names, are Eberle, Leddy, and unrestricted free agents like Casey Zizekas, Kyle Palmieri, even if you want to say Adam Pollock, but probably not. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see what exactly the Islanders' mindset is here. Is it to shed the salary, or is it to retain as much value as possible and maybe shed the salary after the expansion draft? Maybe the Islanders make a trade with the Devils to send a guy like Jordan Eberle to the Devils themselves for a second and a third round pick and call it a day. And it may be a win-win situation. So we'll see what happens. But guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think the Islanders should do with their forwards? In particular, you could argue even for defensemen. Who should the Islanders protect going into the Seattle Kraken expansion? Let me know your thoughts down below. And if you guys like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL and more of this series, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time.